I've wanted to build myself a GPU server for quite some time now, but I've never really had a reason to. But all that changed when I recently created my CSGO frag movie generator. I wanted to turn it into a website where people could upload CSGO demos and have it turn into clips of interesting moments for them to download. And naturally, in order to do that, I need to have GPU resources available on my network all the time. Given that cloud GPU prices are ludicrously expensive, not to mention the bandwidth and storage associated with processing demos in the cloud, I decided to do it myself and create myself a GPU server. Fortunately, I had a lot of the hardware lying around already. I had a motherboard from my previous workstation along with two 6-core Xeons, which is more than sufficient for what I wanted to do, and a pair of GTX 970s. Now, although these are older cards, they are definitely capable of running CSGO, and I think the limit is going to be in CPU and disk speed anyway, as when recording CSGO, it stores the video initially as individual frames, which creates a very high I/O and CPU load. I also reused a chassis from my previous NAS system, so it's got lots of hard drive bays in the front, which will go completely unused because I'm using network storage. Fortunately, by using this chassis, I'll have plenty of space for my GPUs, as well as additional network cards and things I want to add in. I did play it safe and bought a new power supply for this build. Considering the amount of hardware I'm putting in here, I want to make sure I can power it all fairly safely and not risk breaking any of my equipment. With all the parts prepared, I was ready to start the build. Overall, it went pretty smoothly, no big issues to speak of. I did encounter some issues when setting up Proxmox, which I talk about in the clip after this. I do find it amazing how much hardware you can get for not very much money these days. Even hardware from a few years ago has enough power to do most of the things that almost anybody could want with it if configured in the correct way. Overall, this build would have cost me less than £300. I guess including the things I already had, it's probably closer to around £600. But even then, that's still a much better going rate for this kind of compute power. Just through buying through the used markets and eBay. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be saved by buying stuff that's a few years older. So here's the completed build. It's all finished. I managed to get the virtual machines running, each with their own pass-through GPU. There we go, running very well. So at the moment my system's running Proxmox, and I managed to get the GPU pass-through working without too many issues. The only major issue I had was this. This HP RAID controller had some issues with the PCI Express pass-through for some reason. Even though I wasn't actually passing through this device, it interfered with the I/O MMU and caused Linux to fail on boot up. So I removed this, and actually that turned out to be serendipitous because I wanted to put in a 10 gig network card anyway, which is what replaced it in that slot. So eventually when I deploy this will be connected up to my storage network, and I'll use this for the storage for the virtual machines because this only has a single 120 gig SSD for storage, which is enough to boot Proxmox and then some ISOs just to set up the virtual machines. At the moment, the storage is running off my NAS at gigabit, which is not ideal, but it's good enough to get some benchmarks running, which I think is pretty good. The annoying part about removing that RAID controller is I can only connect up 8 of my 12 hard drive bays at the front. But as I wasn't going to use it for a storage array anyway, at least not yet, I'm not too worried about that. It's not the end of the world. You can see on the motherboard there are actually traces for another... I don't know how well you can see that on here. I'm trying to stick my finger in the fan. There are traces for another SAS connector down there. But this motherboard only has one. I'm not sure what that's based on. Maybe it's just a different SKU for different chassis or something. But I can do with 8 drives for now. It gives me a lot of expansion in the future. If I want to enable the other bays, I'll figure something out then. I've got some headless HDMI adapters on the way, which I'll plug into my GPUs at the back here. So when I deploy this, it'll have no monitors plugged in, it'll just use the headless displays, and I'll use VNC to manage them. The reason I chose a server platform to run this in the end, because I could have probably done this on a consumer board, especially a newer one, but at the back here, you see this 2 Ethernet ports. These are actually used by the host operating system, and then here there's an IPMI port. This is used for remote management. That means I can turn on and off the server remotely when I need it, so I'm not constantly thrashing the power bill. And it also lets me do other things like manage virtual boot devices or remote console. So I can actually get the terminal screen, which is, at the moment is full of KVM errors. All my GPUs ended up working great. So there's the 1050 Ti. Here's the two 970s. I hate how they don't match. That bothers me more than it should. But working very well. Pretty good performance out of these. The temperature's not too high either, considering how sandwiched they are in this chassis, and there's barely any breathing room between the two. That's actually crazy. So I'm running Firestrike on here. Not too badly. Obviously, it's not going to be the most cutting-edge system. Come on, focus. Camera's having a hard time. There you go. So it's not running amazingly well, but that's pretty good. Oh, look at him go. This is intense. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, let's see the final score. Hey, that's not half bad at all. And apparently it is a valid score. Nice. So I did a quick Google beforehand. This is the hardware score for a 970, which is what I have, and an i7-3770 bare metal. So, considering that's a 9900, that's probably overclocked as well. And this is a complete base, almost 9000. I'm not too disappointed with that. It's about a 10% performance loss, just over that. But unlike that other system, I can do that 2 more times. So running benchmarks is great and all, but that's not actually what I want to build this for. What I built this for was a mixture of having some GPU compute resources available and being able to stream games remotely. The end goal is to have this Windows virtual machine, because these two are running Linux, and actually running it pretty well. I'm surprised how much improvement we've seen from gaming performance on Linux, but the end goal for this Windows virtual machine is to have this set up as a Steam streaming server. So I'll have Steam Link on here connected to my mobile devices, and I'll be able to stream games from it, and stream games to my little Linux box under my TV. Alright, so that covers the GPU server project so far. If I do end up using this to make my CSGO Frag Movie website, I will certainly make a follow-up video, because I think that would be quite interesting. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to. See you later.